The radio crackles through static and wind. A voice emerges, cold and methodical, cutting through the Arctic silence like a blade through ice. "Lieutenant, you should have stayed dead. Much cleaner that way." Commander Victor Hale stands in the operations center 200 miles south, watching red dots blink across a digital map. His finger hovers over a control panel, eyes fixed on coordinates that shouldn't exist anymore. The hunt has been on for 6 hours. She's bleeding out somewhere in that frozen wasteland, and he needs her gone before sunrise, before anyone asks the right questions, before the chip she's carrying makes it back to headquarters. He keys the mic again, speaking to the 3-man team tracking boot prints through knee-deep snow. No survivors, no evidence. Make it look like exposure. The transmission ends. Somewhere in the darkness, engines growl to life. But Commander Hale doesn't know that someone else heard that signal. Someone who wasn't supposed to be in this sector at all. 3 miles north of Hale's kill team, Chief Petty Officer Ethan Cole crouches behind a wind-carved ridge, scanning the terrain through thermal optics. His SEAL team is 40 minutes into what should have been a straightforward hostage extraction near the border. Intel said the target was holed up in an abandoned mining facility. Intel was wrong. The building's empty except for rats and rust. Now they're tracking a weak emergency beacon that appeared on their satellite feed 23 minutes ago, signal fading fast, coordinates drifting like it's being moved. Or like someone's dying. Ethan adjusts the thermal scope, sweeping across endless white. The temperature sits at -15 degrees Fahrenheit. Wind chill pushes it lower. Exposure kills in under 2 hours out here without proper gear. The beacon's been active for 6 hours minimum, based on the decay pattern. Whoever's out there is living on borrowed time. Gunnery Sergeant Brooks, 55 years old with a face like weathered stone, moves up beside him. The veteran sniper has seen 3 wars and doesn't waste words. Signal's dying, half a mile northeast. Ethan nods, signaling the 4-man team forward. They move in tactical silence, boots crunching through ice crust, breath fogging the air. The landscape offers no cover, just rolling hills of white punctuated by skeletal trees. Every step feels exposed. The beacon pulses weaker with each passing minute, like a heartbeat fading. Then Brooks freezes, fist raised. Everyone stops. He points downslope, where the snow lies disturbed in patterns too deliberate to be natural. Drag marks, boot prints, and something darker staining the white like spilled ink. Ethan moves forward, weapon ready, every nerve firing. The blood trail leads around a cluster of rocks, and that's when he sees it. A figure bound and motionless, half buried in snow. Navy uniform jacket torn and soaked through, dark stains spreading across the fabric. Beside the body, a K9 unit dog stands guard, massive German Shepherd mix with frost coating its fur. The animal's bleeding from a gash along its ribs, but won't leave its handler's side. When the SEAL team approaches, the dog growls low, protective, teeth bared. Ethan drops to one knee, scanning for threats before focusing on the victim. He expects a corpse. Instead, he finds shallow breathing, barely visible in the cold. The person's hands are zip-tied behind their back, face pressed into snow, limbs curled inward against hypothermia. Blood has frozen in dark patches across the uniform, but the chest still rises and falls in slow, measured intervals. He reaches for the tactical knife on his vest, cutting through the zip ties with quick precision. The moment the bonds release, the K9 stops growling, as if it understands help has arrived. Ethan rolls the victim onto their back, brushing snow from the face. Female, mid-30s. Skin pale from cold exposure, lips tinged blue. But what stops Ethan cold is the name tape stitched across the jacket. D. Rains. Navy Police K9 Unit. His hand freezes on the radio. Every SEAL in the North Atlantic knows that name. Not because of the lieutenant herself, but because of the man whose daughter she is. Admiral James Rains. Decorated veteran. Strategic Operations Commander. Dead 2 years now in what the official report called a training accident. Ethan's voice comes out rough when he keys the mic. "Command, this is Shadow 3. We found her. I found the Admiral's daughter." Silence on the other end. Then a burst of static and a voice demanding confirmation. Ethan ignores it, already moving. He strips off his outer jacket, wrapping it around the unconscious woman, checking for major wounds. The blood comes from a shoulder injury, bullet grazed by the look of it, but the real danger is the cold. Her core temperature has dropped into dangerous territory. Another hour and she's gone. Brooks moves to the K9, offering water from his canteen. The dog drinks, then limps back to its handler's side, nosing at her hand. Ethan notices something odd about the animal's tactical vest. There's a thin strip of fabric hanging loose near the collar, like someone tried to remove something in a hurry. He lifts Lieutenant Rains carefully, cradling her against his chest as he stands. She weighs almost nothing, body limp and cold. But as he shifts her, her breathing changes. The rhythm steadies, becomes deliberate. 4 counts in, 4 counts hold, 4 counts out. Combat breathing, tactical stress control, not the panicked gasps of someone dying from exposure. The pattern of someone trained to survive. Ethan exchanges a glance with Brooks. The older SEAL's eyes narrow, recognition flickering there. That's not civilian training. That's not even standard Navy protocol. That's something taught to operators who need to function under torture, under interrogation, under conditions where panic means death. But there's no time to process it. The wind picks up and Ethan's thermal scanner beeps a warning. Heat signatures approaching from the south. 3 contacts, moving fast on snowmobiles, not a rescue team. Rescue teams don't move with tactical spacing and suppressed heat signatures. Someone's hunting her. Ethan barks orders and the team moves. They carry Lieutenant Rains toward a shallow depression in the terrain, temporary cover while they assess the threat. The K-9 follows, staying close to its handler even as blood drips from its wound. Brooks sets up overwatch on a ridge, rifle trained on the approaching contacts. Inside the depression, Ethan lays the lieutenant down, covering her with thermal blankets from his pack. Her eyelids flutter but don't open. He checks her pulse, steady but weak, then examines the shoulder wound. Clean through, missed the bone. Professional work. Someone who knew where to shoot to cause pain without immediate death. The kind of wound you give someone when you want them to bleed out slowly in the snow. His fingers find the fabric strip on the K-9's vest, tugging it free. Hidden inside is a small object wrapped in waterproof material. He peels back the layers, revealing a microdata chip no bigger than a thumbnail. Military-grade, encrypted storage, the kind used for classified intelligence transfers. Why would a K-9 investigator be carrying this, and why would someone want her dead for it? The snowmobile engines grow louder. Ethan pockets the chip, raises his weapon, and waits. Brooks's voice comes through the earpiece, calm and measured. 3 hostiles, armed, moving in search pattern. They're looking for something. Or someone. The first snowmobile crests the ridge 200 yards out. The driver wears unmarked tactical gear, no insignia, face covered by a balaclava, standard contractor loadout. The second and third machines fan out, forming a sweep line. They're not rushing. They're thorough, methodical, scanning every drift and depression. Ethan makes a decision. His team is outnumbered if this turns into a firefight, and they're carrying a critical casualty who can't move on her own. Fighting here means risking her life. He signals for withdrawal, and the SEALs begin moving northeast, staying low, using the terrain. Brooks provides covering observation, tracking the hostile team's movement. They make it 50 yards before the K-9 stops, hackles raised, staring back toward the search area. A low whine builds in its throat, and Ethan realizes what's about to happen a split second before it does. The dog barks, once, sharp and loud in the frozen air. The sound carries. The hostile team's heads snap toward their position. Ethan curses under his breath, lifts Lieutenant Rains higher, and runs. The SEALs break from concealment, sprinting through snow that grabs at their boots. Behind them, engines roar to life, closing the distance. The K-9 bounds ahead, finding the easiest path through the drifts, and Ethan follows, trusting the animal's instincts. Gunfire cracks across the landscape, suppressed but unmistakable. Rounds impact snow around them, spraying ice. Brooks returns fire from the rear, controlled bursts that force the pursuers to swerve and slow. But they're not stopping. They're professionals, pushing through contact, focused on the target. The terrain drops into a narrow ravine, steep sides cutting through the snowpack. Ethan slides down, boots skidding on ice, keeping Lieutenant Rains secure against his chest. The rest of the team follows, using the natural cover. The K-9 reaches the bottom first, turning to watch the ridgeline above. The snowmobiles can't follow down the slope. Engines idle at the top and then cut off. Silence falls, heavy and waiting. Ethan knows what comes next. The hostile team will dismount and pursue on foot, clearing the ravine methodically. He has maybe 3 minutes before they're on top of him. He finds an overhang in the ravine wall, a small space carved by wind and water. Not a proper shelter, but it blocks line of sight from above. He lays Lieutenant Rains inside, checking her vitals again, still breathing, still unconscious. The K-9 squeezes in beside her, body heat adding to the thermal blanket's protection. Brooks and the other SEALs take position at choke points in the ravine, weapons ready. Ethan pulls out a tactical medical kit, working fast. He packs the shoulder wound with hemostatic gauze, wraps it tight, then starts an IV line to combat the hypothermia. The lieutenant needs a hospital, needs warmth and time. Out here, he can only slow the dying. As he works, his hand brushes her wrist, and he feels something unexpected, a scar, raised and textured, running along the inside of her forearm. His medic training kicks in automatically, assessing the pattern. Not a clean surgical line, shrapnel damage, the kind of wound that comes from being too close when something explodes. He's seen that injury pattern before. On operators who survived IED strikes. Like and subscribe to uncover what really happened to the Admiral's daughter, and why someone wants her buried in the snow before she can tell the truth. Ethan's mind races through possibilities, trying to piece together a picture that doesn't make sense. A canine investigator with combat scars, a chip hidden in a dog's vest, a clean execution setup disguised as exposure, someone with resources and authority behind the hit, someone who can tamper with GPS coordinates and deploy contractors into a restricted military zone. Lieutenant Rains' eyes snap open. The transition is instant, no grogginess, no confusion. One moment unconscious, the next fully alert, pupils tracking movement with tactical precision. Her hand moves to where her sidearm should be holstered. Finding nothing, she shifts focus to Ethan, assessing threat level in half a second. Then to the canine, checking the animal's condition before anything else. Her voice comes out hoarse from cold and dehydration, but steady. "Where's Rex?" Ethan blinks at the priority shift. Not "where am I" or "who are you?" The dog first. "He's here, guarding. Took a hit, but he's stable." She reaches out, fingers finding the canine's head, running over the bandage Brooks applied. The dog leans into her touch, tail thumping once against stone. Satisfied, she turns her attention back to Ethan, eyes sharp despite the hypothermia. "How long was I out?" "We found you 20 minutes ago. You've been in the snow for hours. Your core temp is critical. You need evacuation." "No." The word comes flat and absolute, no negotiation in it. "Ma'am, with respect, you're looking at organ failure if we don't get you warm. You need medical attention." "I need to reach headquarters. I need to deliver." She stops, gaze dropping to Rex's vest, noticing the missing fabric strip. Her jaw tightens. "You found it." Not a question. Ethan pulls the chip from his pocket, holds it up. Her hand shoots out, lightning fast despite the hypothermia, snatching it before he can react. She clutches it against her chest, protective. "This doesn't leave my sight. Lieutenant Rains, we're 10 miles from the nearest base, you're injured, and there's a team hunting you. Whatever's on that chip, it's not worth dying for." Her laugh comes out bitter, no humor in it. "They already tried to kill me for it. Everyone in my unit. Staged as a vehicle accident during a routine patrol. Rolled the transport, executed survivors, set it on fire. Would have worked too, except Rex pulled me out before they could confirm the bodies." The words land like hammer blows. Ethan stares at her, processing the implications. This isn't some random attack. This is a coordinated hit on a Navy unit, covered up as an accident with resources and authority behind it. "Who?" She meets his eyes, and he sees something cold and ancient there. Grief that's calcified into something harder. "Commander Victor Hale, Senior Intelligence Officer, my commanding officer, the man my father trusted with his life." The name means nothing to Ethan, but Brooks's voice crackles through the earpiece, sharp with recognition. "Hale? The Victor Hale? He runs Northfield operations. Black budget stuff, signal intelligence, asset coordination, that's high-level access." Lieutenant Rains nods, watching Ethan's face as understanding dawns. "He's been selling targeting data, submarine routes, patrol schedules, asset locations, to whoever pays enough. My K-9 unit was investigating supply chain irregularities at the base. We found discrepancies in the shipping manifests, started pulling threads. That's when Hale decided we knew too much." She holds up the chip, turning it over in her fingers. "This contains 6 months of evidence. Transaction records, communication logs, delivery confirmations. Enough to take down Hale and everyone in his network. He knows I have it. That's why the GPS coordinates for my rescue beacon were altered. That's why the extraction team got sent to the wrong location. He's buying time to find me before anyone else does." Ethan's tactical mind runs through the scenario, seeing the trap from all angles. If Lieutenant Rains is right, then Command doesn't know where she really is. The official rescue effort is looking 30 miles southwest, following false coordinates. The team hunting her right now has accurate location data, which means they have access to real-time satellite feeds. The kind of access only someone at Hale's level could authorize. They're not getting out of this with a simple radio call. We can't trust standard channels, Ethan says, thinking out loud. If Hale has the access you're describing, he's monitoring all military frequencies in this sector. The moment we transmit, he knows exactly where we are. I know. Lieutenant Raines struggles to sit up, fighting through the weakness in her limbs. That's why I activated the Black Channel beacon. Brooks's voice cuts in again, sharp with surprise. The what? She looks at Ethan, measuring something in his reaction. You've heard of it. Communication network for compromised operators. Completely off book, designed for situations where command structure is untrusted. Only people who know it exists are those who've been read into certain programs. Ethan has heard whispers, stories traded in quiet corners of SEAL team briefings, a fallback system for operators who get burned, left behind, or find themselves on the wrong side of official channels. Officially, it doesn't exist. The kind of thing that only matters if you're running from your own people. The fact that Lieutenant Raines knows about it raises questions Ethan isn't sure he wants answered. Before he can respond, his tactical scanner beeps urgently. Heat signatures moving into the ravine, 3 contacts advancing from the south. The hostile team has started their hunt. Brooks' voice comes through tense and focused. We've got company, 200 yards in closing. They're spreading out, clearing systematically. They know we're in here somewhere. Ethan makes a decision. They can't stay pinned in this location, can't win a firefight when the enemy has numerical advantage and unlimited support. They need mobility, time, and distance. He turns to Lieutenant Raines, seeing past the hypothermia to the operator underneath. Can you move? She tests her legs, jaw tight against the pain. I can move. Then we go north. There's an old signal relay station 3 miles out. Abandoned, but the building's intact. We hole up there, warm you up, and figure out how to get that chip where it needs to go without Hale intercepting. He expects argument. Instead, she nods once, accepting the tactical logic. She reaches for Rex, checking the canine's injury one more time, then signals the dog to follow. The animal limps but keeps pace, loyal to the end. The SEAL team moves out, navigating the ravine in tactical formation. Lieutenant Raines stays in the center, protected, but Ethan notices how she positions herself. Not like a casualty being escorted. Like an operator maintaining situational awareness, scanning sectors, covering gaps in their formation. Training that goes deeper than K-9 investigation protocols. They exit the ravine on the north side, emerging into open terrain just as gunfire erupts behind them. The hostile team has reached their last position, finding it empty. Shouts echo across the snow, angry and frustrated. The hunters are realizing their prey is mobile. Ethan pushes the pace, forcing everyone into a jog despite the exhaustion and cold. Lieutenant Raines keeps up, breathing hard but maintaining rhythm. That same 4-count pattern he noticed before. In for 4, hold for 4, out for 4. Stress management through autonomic control. The kind of technique that has to be drilled until it becomes unconscious. Where did a K-9 investigator learn that? The question haunts him as they run. He glances at her profile, trying to reconcile the pieces. The scars, the chip, the Black Channel knowledge. The way she moves despite hypothermia and blood loss, pushing through pain with a focus that speaks to training he recognizes. His father's name was Raines, James Raines, Admiral. Everyone knows the story. Strategic Operations Commander, 30 years of service, died during a classified training exercise 2 years ago. Official cause listed as equipment malfunction. The kind of death that gets filed away with minimal investigation because the mission was too sensitive to examine closely. Ethan remembers talk among the SEAL teams after the Admiral's death. Quiet speculation that something didn't add up. Raines was a legend, careful and thorough, the type who checked equipment 3 times before running exercises. An equipment malfunction death felt wrong, but the investigation was shut down fast, orders from high up the chain. Case closed. Move on. Now Ethan is running through Arctic snow with the Admiral's daughter, who carries evidence of high-level treason and claims her commanding officer tried to execute her entire unit. The woman who knows about communication networks that officially don't exist. The pieces start forming a picture Ethan doesn't like. They reach the relay station 40 minutes later, lungs burning from the cold and exertion. The building squats in a clearing, concrete walls weathered by years of harsh conditions. Windows are boarded over, door secured with a rusted chain. Brooks cuts through the lock with bolt cutters from his pack, and they slip inside. The interior offers protection from the wind at least. It's dark, stale, and almost as cold as outside, but it's cover. Ethan gets Lieutenant Rains situated against a wall, wrapping her in every thermal blanket they have. The hypothermia is still critical. He starts a second IV line, pushing warm saline into her system. Rex curls up beside her, the dog's body heat adding precious degrees. Brooks takes position at a window, watching their back trail. The other two SEALs secure the building's perimeter, checking for additional exits. Ethan pulls out his tactical laptop, booting up the encrypted system. I need to see what's on that chip. Lieutenant Rains hesitates, then hands it over. Her fingers linger on the device for a moment before letting go, and Ethan realizes what it represents: the last words of her unit. Evidence purchased with their lives. He slots the chip into the reader, watching files populate the screen. Encrypted directories, metadata showing 6 months of systematic collection, document scans, audio recordings, financial transactions. The kind of intelligence package that takes time and careful planning to assemble. He opens the most recent file. A scanned document, official Navy letterhead. Purchase order for weapons systems, routed through a shell company, delivery coordinates listed for international waters. Below that, email chains showing authorization signatures, including one from Commander Victor Hale. Ethan scrolls through more files. Each one builds the case. Pattern of equipment going missing, shipping manifests altered, delivery confirmations showing material ending up in unauthorized locations. And through it all, Hale's digital fingerprints, covering tracks but not quite covering them enough. This isn't just treason. This is systematic theft of military assets, sold to the highest bidder, ongoing for at least 2 years, maybe longer. Lieutenant Rains watches his face as he processes the information. Now you understand why he needs me dead. That chip represents a life sentence in military prison. Everyone connected to him goes down. Careers destroyed, reputations ruined. He has significant motivation to make sure it never reaches the right hands. Ethan looks up from the screen. This is why your father died, isn't it? Her expression doesn't change, but something shifts in her eyes. Confirmation without words. Dad started noticing the same irregularities I did. He was too senior, too careful. Hale couldn't move openly against him. So they staged an accident during a classified exercise. Equipment malfunction, no witnesses, case closed. How do you know? Because I was there. The words hang in the air. Ethan stares at her, recalculating everything. You were on the exercise? I was running support logistics. Different unit, different chain of command, but close enough to see what happened. The equipment didn't malfunction. Someone tampered with it. I saw the explosion, saw them collecting evidence, saw how fast the investigation got shut down. I couldn't prove anything then, didn't have the rank, the access, or the evidence. She touches the chip still in Ethan's laptop. So I went dark, transferred to K9 Investigations. Lower profile, less attention. Spent 2 years building this case from the inside. Every transaction, every altered manifest, every piece of the puzzle. It took time, but I got it all. And then Hale found out. He got sloppy, or I got too close. Either way, he moved. Ordered the ambush on my unit during a routine patrol. Would have worked too, except Rex got me out before they could confirm the kill. I activated the black channel beacon and ran. Ethan's fingers move across the keyboard, pulling up additional files. Communication logs showing coordination between Hale and unknown contacts. Financial records tracing payment routes through offshore accounts. Security footage from the base showing equipment being loaded onto unauthorized vehicles. The evidence is comprehensive, airtight. Exactly the kind of package that ends careers and starts criminal proceedings at the highest levels. But there's a problem. Ethan tries uploading the files to a secure military server, routing through his SEAL team's encrypted connection. The upload initializes, progress bar climbing, then freezes. An error message pops up across the screen, red text on black background. Access denied, authorized by CDR V. Hale. System lockout, complete and total. Lieutenant Rains sees the message and closes her eyes, exhaling slowly. He's locked down the entire network, every military server in this sector. I can't upload, can't transmit, can't get the evidence to anyone through official channels. He's using his clearance to create a digital blackout. Brooks's voice cuts across the room, sharp with alarm. We've got movement, multiple heat signatures approaching from the south, more than before. Looks like he called in reinforcements. Ethan moves to the window, scanning the terrain through his scope. 8 contacts this time, spread across a wide front. Professional tactical formation, coordinated movement. Not just contractors anymore. These are trained military operators. Hale is pulling out all the stops. Comment below your prediction. Will they escape the relay station before Hale's reinforcements arrive? Or is this where the Admiral's daughter makes her final stand? Lieutenant Rains struggles to her feet, swaying but standing. Ethan moves to steady her, but she waves him off. Her hand goes to her belt, checking for weapons that aren't there anymore. Everything was stripped during the ambush. She's injured, hypothermic, and unarmed against 8 hostiles closing in, but her voice comes out steady, cold with purpose. I'm not dying here, not before that chip reaches someone who can act on it. Rex didn't pull me out of that burning vehicle just so Hale could finish the job in this frozen wasteland. Ethan respects the determination, but reality is reality. They're outnumbered, pinned down, with a critically injured operator who should be in a hospital bed. The tactical situation is deteriorating by the second. Then Lieutenant Rains does something unexpected. She reaches for Ethan's sidearm, movements quick despite the hypothermia. Before he can react, she's checked the magazine, verified the round in the chamber, and adopted a shooting stance that's textbook perfect. Muscle memory so ingrained it overrides physical weakness. Her grip is wrong, though, not in technique but in origin. That's not standard Navy shooting grip. That's close-quarters battle positioning, the kind taught to special operations forces who need to engage targets in tight spaces with split-second timing. Ethan's mind races through possibilities, landing on one that seems impossible but explains everything. The scars, the Black Channel knowledge, the way she moves, the combat breathing under stress. You're not just a K-9 investigator. She meets his eyes over the sights of the pistol, and for the first time since he found her, she almost smiles. It's a cold expression, nothing warm in it. The look of someone who's been playing a role for 2 years and is tired of pretending. No, I'm not. Before Ethan can push further, Brooke's urgent voice cuts through. Contact in 60 seconds. They're moving fast. We need to decide now. Fight or run. Ethan looks at Lieutenant Rains, searching her face for answers to questions he doesn't have time to ask. She returns the pistol, handle first, surrendering it back. But the way she moves, the readiness in her stance, tells him she's more than ready to fight if that's what's required. We run, Ethan decides. Northeast toward the secondary extraction point. I'll call for backup once we're clear of Hale's jamming range. He'll track us, Lieutenant Rains warns. He has satellite coverage and the resources to keep pursuit going indefinitely. Running only delays the inevitable. Then we delay. Buy time for the right people to start asking questions. Someone will notice an extended operation in this sector. Someone will wonder why a SEAL team went dark. We just need to survive long enough for those questions to get asked. The logic is thin, but it's all they have. The SEAL team moves out through the back exit, leaving the relay station behind. Rex follows Lieutenant Rains, limping but determined. The K-9's loyalty is absolute, unwavering even in the face of overwhelming odds. They make it 200 yards before the first gunshot cracks across the snow. The round impacts ice 3 feet to Ethan's left, spraying frozen shards. Return fire erupts from Brooks, controlled bursts that force the hostile team to take cover. But there are too many of them, spreading out to flank from multiple angles. Ethan grabs Lieutenant Rains, pulling her into a depression in the terrain. Rex follows, pressed against her leg. The SEAL team forms a defensive perimeter, weapons trained outward, watching for movement. For 10 seconds, silence. Then the world erupts. Automatic weapons fire from 3 directions simultaneously. Snow explodes around them in fountains of white. Brooks takes a round in his vest, body armor catching it but the impact knocking him down. The other SEALs return fire, targeting muzzle flashes, trying to suppress the assault. Lieutenant Rains reaches for Ethan's sidearm again, and this time he doesn't stop her. She rises from cover, identifies a target through the chaos, and fires twice. Both rounds find their mark. Center mass. Professional execution. The hostile drops, weapon falling into snow. She shifts, acquires a second target, fires again. 1 round. Clean hit. The enemy combatant goes down. Ethan stares. Those aren't lucky shots. That's precision marksmanship under stress, at range, with iron sights, in deteriorating physical condition. The kind of shooting that requires thousands of hours of training and real-world experience under fire. A K-9 investigator doesn't shoot like that, but a special operations officer does. Brooks scrambles back to cover, breathing hard but functional. His voice comes out strained. "Who in the blazes is she?" Ethan doesn't have an answer, or rather, he has an answer forming, but it's so improbable he can't quite believe it yet. Admiral James Raines, Strategic Operations Commander, 30 years of service, access to classified programs and special operations units, a father who could have trained his daughter in things most people never know exist. The hostile team regroups, pulling back to reassess. They've lost 2 operators in quick succession to what they thought was an unarmed target. That changes the tactical calculation. They're more careful now, using better cover, coordinating their approach. Ethan uses the lull to check ammunition. Running low. 3 magazines left across the entire team, not enough for a sustained engagement. They need to break contact, find better ground, or come up with a miracle. Lieutenant Raines leans against the depression wall, breathing through the pain and cold. Her hands are shaking now, hypothermia reasserting itself after the adrenaline spike. She's running on fumes, pushing through physical limits that should have shut her down an hour ago. But her eyes stay sharp, scanning for threats, maintaining tactical awareness even as her body fails. "There's a maintenance depot 4 miles north," she says, voice rough. "Used to stage repair equipment for the old pipeline. Building's mostly collapsed, but there's underground storage that might still be intact. Better defensive position than out here." "How do you know about that?" She looks at him, and there's something ancient and sad in her expression. "My father showed me, before he died. Said if I ever needed to disappear, that was a good place to do it. Suspected he might have known something was coming, wanted me to have options." The implication hits Ethan hard. Admiral Raines knew he was in danger, knew there was a threat inside his own command structure, prepared his daughter for the possibility that she might need to run from her own people. And 2 years later, that's exactly what's happening. Brooks pulls Ethan aside, voice low and urgent. "We can't keep this pace. She's dying on her feet, and we're almost out of ammunition. We need extraction, and we need it now." "I don't care what protocols we have to break." Ethan knows Brooks is right. Every tactical assessment says they're running out of time and options, but calling for extraction means broadcasting their position on military frequencies that Hale is monitoring. It brings help, but it also brings more enemies. Unless. "The Black Channel," Ethan says, turning to Lieutenant Raines. "You said you activated the beacon. Who's monitoring it? Who responds to those signals?" She hesitates, measuring how much to reveal. "People who understand what it means when an operator goes dark. Other units, foreign liaisons, contractors who used to be government. Anyone who's been burned badly enough to need that network. It's not official, so there's no guarantee anyone's listening. But if they are, they'll come, because they know next time it might be them who needs the help. It's a long shot, a desperate gamble, but it's better than nothing. How do we boost the signal, make sure it gets out past Hale's jamming?" She thinks for a moment, then points northeast. "The depot. There's old communications equipment in the underground storage, Soviet-era stuff from when this was a joint listening post. If any of it's still functional, we might be able to amplify the Black Channel beacon enough to punch through the interference." Ethan makes the call. They move for the depot, 4 miles through hostile territory, carrying a failing operator and an injured K-9, hunted by an enemy with unlimited resources and authorization to kill anyone who gets in the way. The odds are impossibly bad, but SEALs don't quit. And apparently, neither does Lieutenant Dana Raines. They run. The terrain fights them every step. Snow grabs at boots, wind cuts through gear, and the temperature continues dropping as afternoon fades toward evening. Lieutenant Raines stumbles twice, caught each time by Ethan before she can fall. Her breathing becomes labored, that precise 4-count rhythm starting to break down. Hypothermia is winning. Rex stays close, the K-9's presence seeming to give her strength. Every time she slows, the dog nudges her leg, keeping her moving. Animal and handler bound by something deeper than training. Behind them, the hostile team maintains pursuit. They're more cautious now, respecting the threat level, but they're not giving up. Hale has too much at stake to let this go. He needs that chip destroyed and Lieutenant Raines dead. Everything else is secondary. The maintenance depot appears through the snow like a ghost. Collapsed structures lean at angles, metal twisted by years of neglect. But beneath the ruins, concrete stairways lead down into darkness. Underground storage, protected from the elements, potentially still secure. The SEAL team descends, weapons ready, scanning for threats. The underground space is vast, stretching back into shadows beyond their lights. Old equipment lines the walls, decades old but surprisingly intact. The Soviets built things to last. Ethan finds what they need, a communications array, powered down but potentially functional. He pulls out his technical kit, starts tracing wiring, looking for power sources. Brooks and the other SEALs secure the entrance, preparing for the inevitable assault. Lieutenant Rains collapses against a wall, unable to stand anymore. Her skin is gray, lips almost blue. She's minutes from losing consciousness again, but she forces words out through chattering teeth. There's a backup generator, east wall. Should have fuel reserves if the tanks didn't rupture. Ethan finds it, exactly where she said. He primes the system, cranks the starter, and after 3 attempts, the generator coughs to life. Lights flicker on overhead, weak and intermittent, but functional. Power flows to the communications array. He works fast, bypassing security protocols, rerouting systems. The Black Channel beacon needs amplification, needs enough power to punch through Hale's jamming and reach whoever's listening out there in the dark. The array comes online with a surge of static. Ethan feeds in the beacon frequency, adjusts modulation, and pushes the transmission output to maximum. The signal broadcasts outward, carried on wavelengths that don't officially exist, calling for help from people who aren't supposed to be there. "How long until someone responds?" he asks. Lieutenant Rains' eyes are half closed, fighting to stay conscious. Could be minutes, could be hours. Depends who's listening. Depends how far they are. Depends if they're willing to risk coming into a hot zone. Not the reassurance Ethan was hoping for, but it's honest. Above ground, engine sounds echo through the ruins. The hostile team has arrived. Multiple vehicles, more reinforcements. Hale is committing everything to this operation. Brooks's voice crackles through the radio, tense but controlled. They're setting up a perimeter. At least 12 contacts now. Heavy weapons. They're not planning to negotiate. Ethan checks his ammunition again. 1 magazine. Maybe 30 rounds total across the whole team, against 12 trained operators with unlimited ammunition and support. The math doesn't work. Lieutenant Rains reaches up, grabs Ethan's wrist with surprising strength. Her eyes lock onto his, fierce despite the hypothermia. "The chip. If I don't make it out, you take it. You find someone you trust absolutely, and you put it in their hands. Promise me. You're making it out. Promise me." Ethan looks at this woman who's fought so hard, survived so much, carried her father's legacy through 2 years of isolation and danger. Who's spent the last hours of her strength making sure evidence of treason reaches the right people? "I promise." She releases his wrist, tension draining from her body. Rex whines, pressing closer, sensing his handler's decline. The first hostile operator appears at the top of the stairs, silhouetted against gray sky. Brooks fires once, and the figure drops. But 2 more appear immediately after, firing down into the underground space. Rounds impact concrete, ricocheting in the confined area. The assault has begun, and the SEAL team has nowhere left to run. The underground depot becomes a kill box. Hostile operators pour suppressive fire down the stairwell, keeping the SEAL team pinned. Brooks returns shots methodically, making every round count. But the numbers game is brutal. For every second they hold this position, the enemy gains ground. Ethan drags Lieutenant Rains deeper into the facility, away from the choke point. Rex follows, limping, but refusing to leave her side. The canine's loyalty cuts through the chaos like a blade, absolute, uncompromising. The dog positions itself between her and the stairwell, hackles raised, ready to fight despite its injuries. The communications array continues broadcasting, signal pushing out into the void. Somewhere out there, someone might be listening, might be coming, but might doesn't stop bullets. A hostile operator makes it halfway down the stairs before Brooks drops him. The body tumbles, weapon clattering on concrete. 2 more immediately take his place, using better tactics, coordinating their descent. They're learning the angles, adapting to the defensive fire. Ethan checks his magazine, 8 rounds left. He looks at Lieutenant Rains, sees her struggling to stay conscious, and makes a decision that goes against every tactical instinct. "Brooks, fall back. Fighting withdrawal to the secondary tunnel." The veteran sniper doesn't question, just signals the other SEALs and starts moving. They lay down covering fire, controlled bursts that buy seconds, then retreat deeper into the underground network. The hostile team advances, claiming the stairwell, spreading into the main chamber. Ethan scoops Lieutenant Rains up, carrying her as he runs. She's light, too light, body failing from hypothermia and blood loss. Her head lolls against his shoulder, consciousness slipping. but her hand still clutches the data chip, fingers locked around it even in semi-consciousness. That chip represents everything: her father's death, her unit's sacrifice, 2 years of isolation and danger. She won't let go until someone forces her fingers open. The secondary tunnel is narrow, carved through rock, leading to an auxiliary exit 300 yards north. It's their only escape route, but it's also a fatal funnel if they get caught inside. One grenade, one well-placed burst of fire, and they're finished. They make it 50 yards when the tunnel behind them erupts with flashlight beams. The hostile team has found their trail, moving fast, confident in their numerical advantage. Voices echo off stone walls, coordinating the pursuit in clipped professional tones. Brooks takes position at a bend in the tunnel, using the angle for cover. He fires twice, forcing the pursuers back, buying seconds. But ammunition is critical now. They're down to final magazines. Ethan reaches the auxiliary exit, a rusted metal hatch set into the ceiling. He passes Lieutenant Rains to another seal, then climbs up, working the manual release. The mechanism is frozen from years of cold, fighting him with every turn. He puts his full weight into it, muscles straining, and finally the lock gives. The hatch swings open, dumping snow into the tunnel. They climb out one by one, emerging into twilight. The sky has darkened to deep blue, first stars appearing. Temperature has dropped further, breath fogging thick. Ethan lifts Lieutenant Rains through the hatch last, cradling her against the wind. Rex scrambles up after them, paws slipping on ice-covered metal. Behind them, the hostile team reaches the tunnel exit. Muzzle flashes light up the darkness, rounds punching through the hatch opening. The SEALs return fire, emptying their last magazines in controlled bursts, then run. The landscape offers no cover now, just open snowfield stretching toward a tree line 400 yards distant. They're exposed, silhouetted against white, easy targets for anyone with thermals. But there's nowhere else to go except forward. Halfway to the trees, Lieutenant Rains stirs in Ethan's arms, her eyes open, focusing with visible effort. She sees the situation, the exposure, the pursuit, the impossible distance to safety, and understands immediately. Put me down. Not happening. Put me down. I'm slowing you. You can make the trees if you're not carrying dead weight. Ethan keeps running, legs burning, lungs screaming for air. We don't leave people behind. She grabs his tactical vest, pulling herself closer so her words cut through the wind. I'm ordering you. Save the chip. Complete the mission. You're not my commanding officer. Something shifts in her eyes. A decision made, a card played that she's been holding close for 2 years. Actually, I am. Before Ethan can process that, gunfire erupts from behind. The hostile team has cleared the tunnel, setting up a firing line with clear sight to the fleeing SEALs. Rounds impact snow around them, tracking closer with each burst. Professional marksmen, adjusting for wind and distance, closing the margin of error. Brooks goes down, taking a round in the leg. He hits hard, rolling in the snow, weapon flying from his hands. The other SEALs stop, torn between escape and recovery. Every second of hesitation costs them ground. Ethan makes the only choice possible. He sets Lieutenant Rains down, tells her to stay low, and sprints back for Brooks. The veteran is trying to crawl, dragging his injured leg, leaving a blood trail in the snow. Ethan reaches him, grabs his vest, and hauls him upright. That's when Lieutenant Rains moves. She doesn't stay down. Instead, she forces herself to her feet, swaying but standing, and walks directly toward the hostile firing line. Not running, walking, hands raised, unarmed, making herself a target. The shooting stops. Confusion ripples through the enemy formation. This isn't standard tactics. This is either surrender or insanity, and neither makes tactical sense from someone who's fought this hard. A voice cuts across the snow, amplified by a handheld speaker. Commander Hale has arrived personally, stepping out from behind the hostile line. He's older than Ethan expected, mid-50s, with the bearing of someone who's spent decades in command. His uniform is immaculate despite the field conditions, authority worn like armor. Lieutenant Rains, let's end this. Give me the chip, and your SEAL friends walk away. You have my word. She keeps walking, closing the distance, each step deliberate despite the hypothermia stealing her strength. 30 yards, 25, 20, close enough now that everyone can see her face in the fading light. Your word, she calls back, voice carrying across the snow. Like the word you gave my father before you killed him? Hale's expression doesn't change, but something tightens around his eyes. Your father's death was an accident. Investigated and closed. Investigated by people you controlled. Closed by orders you authorized. I've seen the maintenance records from that exercise. Someone tampered with his equipment. Someone with access to the armory and knowledge of safety protocols. Someone who knew exactly which systems would fail catastrophically under stress. She's 20 feet away now. The hostile team has weapons trained on her, but nobody fires. This has become something else, a confrontation that transcends tactics, reaching back 2 years to a death that was supposed to be forgotten. Hale tilts his head, studying her with clinical interest. Even if what you're saying is true and I'm not admitting anything, you have no proof. The equipment was destroyed in the explosion. The investigation found no evidence of tampering. It's your word against official record. I have the chip. A chip that will never reach anyone who matters. I control the network, Dana. Every upload path, every communication channel in this sector. You can run, but you can't transmit. And I have unlimited resources to keep hunting you until exposure or exhaustion finishes what my team started. Lieutenant Rains stops walking. 15 feet from Hale, close enough to see his face clearly. Close enough for everyone to hear without amplification. You're wrong about one thing. I already transmitted. Hale's confident expression cracks, just slightly. Impossible. I'm monitoring all frequencies. Nothing's gone out except that black channel beacon, and that's just noise. Nobody monitors those channels anymore. You're monitoring the wrong channels. She reaches up, fingers finding the edge of her torn jacket sleeve. The fabric has been shredded by branches and rough handling hanging loose. She grabs it and pulls, tearing it away completely. The movement exposes her upper arm, revealing what's been hidden beneath layers of clothing. A tattoo runs from shoulder to mid-bicep. Not decorative, not artistic. Functional. A serial identification mark paired with the distinctive symbol that every SEAL in the North Atlantic recognizes instantly. The Trident. Special Operations Insignia. But not the standard version. This variant includes specific design elements that denote something else entirely. A program that officially doesn't exist. A unit that has no records, no roster, no acknowledgement in any database. Crossfire. The numbers beneath the Trident read CF7. Ethan's world stops. Brooks, being helped to his feet behind them, freezes mid-movement. The hostile team, professional operators all, lower their weapons slightly in confusion and recognition. Because if that tattoo is real, if those numbers are legitimate, then Lieutenant Dana Rains isn't a K-9 investigator who stumbled onto classified information. She's one of 12 operators selected for the most classified program in naval special warfare history. Deep cover operatives with authority that bypasses normal chain of command. Personnel who can disappear into other units, other roles, other identities, hunting threats from the inside. Operators who died on paper years ago but continued working in the shadows. Hale stares at the tattoo, calculation running behind his eyes, trying to determine if it's real or an elaborate bluff. Crossfire was shut down 3 years ago. All operators were reassigned or retired. That mark doesn't mean anything anymore. Crossfire was never shut down, Lieutenant Rains says quietly. It was dispersed, embedded. We're still out here, still hunting. You just forgot to keep looking for us. She reaches into her jacket with slow, deliberate movements, pulling out a military ID card. Not the standard blue design. This one has a red border with additional security features that catch the fading light. She holds it up so everyone can see. The photo matches her face. The name reads Dana Rains. The serial number matches the tattoo exactly. And the clearance level listed is high enough to make most officers in the chain of command uncomfortable. Brooks finds his voice first, rough with shock and pain. Crossfire 7, you're the ghost, the one who infiltrated the Shanghai network, who extracted the diplomat from Tehran, who... He trails off, putting pieces together. Who was supposedly killed in that IED strike in Kandahar 2 years ago? Lieutenant Rains, no, Crossfire 7, nods once. Officially dead. Unofficially embedded in Navy Police K-9 investigations. Because my father suspected something was wrong in the intelligence chain, and he needed someone on the inside who could investigate without raising flags. Someone with the training and clearance to follow the evidence wherever it led. She turns back to Hale, and Ethan sees the transformation complete. This isn't the half-frozen casualty he pulled from the snow. This is an operator with 2 years of hunting behind her and absolutely nothing left to lose. I wore their contempt like armor, she continues, voice gaining strength despite her physical condition. Every dismissive comment, every condescending order, every assumption that I was just another paper pusher playing cop. It gave me access, made people careless around me, let me dig through shipping manifests and personnel files without anyone thinking twice. Hale's jaw tightens. His hand moves toward his sidearm. Clever. Except you're still outnumbered, still dying from hypothermia, and still stuck in my operational zone. Even Crossfire authority doesn't overcome a bullet. You're right, but it does overcome your network lockdown. She pulls out a small device from her jacket, no bigger than a phone, a tactical relay transmitter, military grade, with direct satellite uplink capability, the kind of equipment that costs 6 figures and requires specific authorization codes to activate. Crossfire operators maintain independent communication systems precisely because we hunt compromised networks. I've been uploading evidence for the last 30 minutes, ever since your people forced us into that depot. Every file, every transaction record, every piece of evidence, not through your servers. Through Crossfire channels that you have exactly zero ability to monitor or intercept. She presses a button on the device. A confirmation tone beeps in the cold air. Upload complete. Distributed to 17 different recipients across 4 continents, some in military intelligence, some in civilian oversight, some in international criminal prosecution. By morning, your operation is over. Your network is exposed, and everyone connected to you is finished. The color drains from Hale's face. For the first time, genuine fear breaks through his composure. Because if what she's saying is true, there's no way to contain this, no way to spin it. No way to make 17 separate organizations all look the other way. Hit the thanks button to support this investigation, because the truth about the Admiral's death is about to shake the entire command structure, and you won't want to miss what happens next. Hale's hand closes on his sidearm, pulling it from the holster. Desperation overriding judgment. If he can't stop the transmission, he can at least eliminate the source, make her death look like resistance during a lawful operation, muddy the waters enough to create reasonable doubt. He raises the weapon, finger moving to the trigger. Ethan is too far away to intervene. Brooks can't move fast enough with his injured leg. The other SEALs are out of position, unable to get a clean shot without hitting Lieutenant Rains. Time slows. Ethan sees the pistol coming up, sees Hale's finger tightening, sees Lieutenant Rains standing still, making no move to defend herself. Either she's accepted her fate, or she knows something nobody else does. The shot never comes. Instead, a sound cuts through the Arctic air. Low, growing louder. Rotors. Multiple sets, approaching fast from the north. 3 helicopters crest the horizon, military transport variants, running without lights. They descend toward the snowfield, maintaining tactical formation, door guns visible and manned. These aren't rescue birds. These are gunships. Hale lowers his weapon, confusion replacing fear. He didn't call for air support. These aren't his resources. The lead helicopter hovers 50 feet up, spotlight lancing down to illuminate the scene. A voice booms from external speakers carrying command authority that makes everyone instinctively straighten. This is Captain Grant Lawson, acting on orders from Joint Special Operations Command. Commander Hale, you are hereby ordered to stand down and surrender your weapon. All hostile operators, drop your weapons and place your hands on your heads. Failure to comply will result in immediate neutralization. The hostiles hesitate, looking to Hale for orders, but he's frozen, staring up at the helicopters with the expression of someone watching their entire world collapse. Lieutenant Rains turns to face Ethan, and despite the hypothermia, despite the exhaustion, she manages a tight smile. Crossfire operators don't work alone. We have people watching, waiting for the signal. When I activated that relay transmitter, it wasn't just uploading evidence, it was calling for backup. The helicopters touch down, soldiers pouring out in disciplined formations. They move with the precision of special operations forces, securing the area, disarming the hostile team, placing Hale in restraints. Captain Lawson emerges from the lead bird, a man in his 50s with gray hair and eyes that have seen too many operations go sideways. He approaches Lieutenant Rains, takes in her condition with one experienced glance, and immediately signals for a medic. Lieutenant, or should I say, Crossfire 7, about time you came out of the cold. She wavers on her feet, adrenaline finally giving way to the reality of her injuries. Lawson catches her arm, steadying her. Package delivered, sir. Evidence is distributed. Network is exposed. Mission complete. So I heard. 17 agencies got your upload simultaneously. The Admiral would be proud. At the mention of her father, something breaks in her expression. The armor she's worn for 2 years cracks and grief floods through. She's been running on hatred and duty for so long that there's been no room for grief. Now, with the mission accomplished, there's nothing left to hold it back. He knew, didn't he, at the end? He knew Hale had betrayed him. Lawson's expression softens, as much as it ever does. He suspected. That's why he positioned you inside the investigation structure. Why he made sure you had the training and clearance to finish what he started. Your father played a long game, Lieutenant, knowing he might not survive to see the end. She nods, blinking back tears that want to freeze on her cheeks. Rex presses against her leg, warm and solid, and she drops one hand to the canine's head, finding strength in the dog's unwavering presence. Medics arrive with thermal blankets and equipment moving to stabilize her. But she holds up one hand, stopping them for a moment. She turns to Ethan, extending the data chip with trembling fingers. You promised. If I didn't make it out, you'd deliver this. Well, I'm making it out, but I want you to have it anyway. You earned it. You kept me alive when easier choices were available. You trusted me when nothing about this situation made sense. That matters. Ethan takes the chip, feeling the weight of everything it represents. Evidence purchased with blood, carried through hell, finally delivered to people who can act on it. What happens now? He asks. Lieutenant Rains looks at Hale, being loaded into one of the helicopters under armed guard. Then at the hostile team, disarmed and restrained. Then at the northern horizon, where full darkness has fallen and stars fill the sky. Now? Investigations, arrests, courts-martial. It'll take months to unravel the full network, identify everyone Hale sold information to, recover what assets we can. Some people will go to prison. Some will disappear quietly. The system will protect what it can while excising the cancer. And you? She considers the question, exhaustion making her honest. Medical treatment, debriefing, then probably another assignment. Crossfire doesn't retire. We just find new missions, new threats, new holes in the system that need someone to crawl through and fix from inside. The medics insist now, loading her onto a stretcher. Rex tries to follow, but Lieutenant Rains signals him to stay with Ethan. The canine whines, reluctant to leave his handler. Take care of him, she tells Ethan. He deserves better than military kennels, and he's earned his retirement. Ethan watches them load her into the helicopter, bundled in thermal blankets, finally receiving the care she needed hours ago. Brooks limps over, leaning on another SEAL for support, staring at the scene with the expression of someone whose worldview just got forcibly expanded. Crossfire 7, I'll be darned. We just spent 6 hours protecting a living legend. We spent 6 hours protecting a woman who refused to quit, Ethan corrects. The rest is just context. The helicopters lift off, rotors beating the air, carrying Lieutenant Rains and Commander Hale in very different directions. The hostile team gets loaded into ground transport, heading for detention facilities and interrogation. The SEAL team is left standing in the snow, processing what just happened. Captain Lawson approaches Ethan before departing, extending a hand. Chief Cole, your team's actions tonight prevented a major intelligence breach from being swept under the rug. Official recognition will be limited, given the classified nature of the operation, but know that it matters. You did good work. Just following training, sir. We don't leave people behind. No, you don't. Lawson glances at the data chip in Ethan's hand. Guard that until we get back to base. It's evidence in multiple ongoing investigations now, but you already know that. He boards the last helicopter, and within minutes, the snowfield is empty except for the SEAL team and an injured K-9. The silence feels profound after hours of chaos and violence. Brooks breaks it first, sitting heavily in the snow despite his injured leg. Anyone else feel like we just accidentally wandered into the middle of someone else's war? One of the other SEALs laughs, the sound slightly manic from adrenaline come down. Accidentally. We got pulled into that on purpose. She knew we'd find her, knew we'd help. Used us as mobile cover while she completed her mission. Ethan considers that assessment, running back through every decision point. Lieutenant Rains had been conscious more than she let on, steering them toward the relay station, toward the depot, toward positions that bought her time to complete the upload. She'd used their protection not as rescue, but as tactical support for her own operation. Crossfire 7, working multiple angles simultaneously, using every resource available to complete the mission. Can't even be mad about it, Brooks admits. That was professional work. Cold, but professional. Rex whines, looking toward where the helicopters disappeared. The dog understands its handler is gone, temporarily at least, and doesn't like the separation. Ethan kneels beside the canine, checking the bandaged wound, offering what comfort he can. "You did good too, partner. Kept her alive until we found you. That's solid work." The dog's tail thumps once in the snow. 3 weeks later, Ethan stands in a Pentagon briefing room wearing dress uniform. Distinguished service awards line the walls, the kind of room where careers are made and destroyed behind closed doors. Commander Victor Hale's career was destroyed here yesterday. Court-martial proceedings took 12 hours, presenting evidence spanning 2 years and implicating 17 officers across 4 branches. The verdict came unanimous, guilty on all counts: treason, conspiracy, theft of government property, murder. He'll spend life in military prison, stripped of rank and honor. 4 other officers were dishonorably discharged. 9 more face ongoing investigations. The network Hale built took years to construct and 1 day to dismantle. But Ethan isn't here for Hale's sentencing. He's here because Lieutenant Dana Raines requested his presence. She enters wearing service dress whites, moving without visible sign of the hypothermia and injuries she suffered. 3 weeks of intensive care put her back together. Her color has returned, strength restored. But something in her eyes has changed. The mission she carried for 2 years is complete. Rex walks beside her, wearing a service vest with new decorations. When the K9 sees Ethan, his tail wags with genuine enthusiasm. "Chief Cole, thank you for coming." "Ma'am, good to see you on your feet." She almost smiles. "Good to be on them. The doctors weren't sure I'd keep all my fingers for a while." They walk to a window overlooking the Potomac River. Winter sun streams through glass. "I wanted to thank you properly, for keeping me alive, for completing the mission when I couldn't, for taking care of Rex." "Just doing the job, ma'am." "No, you went beyond orders. You made choices that risked your team for someone you didn't know, carrying evidence you couldn't verify. That takes specific courage." She pulls out a small box. Inside is a challenge coin with the Crossfire insignia on one side and coordinates on the other. Not many of these exist. Fewer still get given to people outside the program. I want you to have it as a reminder that strength isn't noise. It's discipline when no one is clapping. Ethan takes the coin, feeling the weight of acceptance from a community he didn't know existed until 3 weeks ago. "What happens next for you?" She looks out the window, watching river traffic below. "Officially, medical leave and reassignment. Unofficially, there's still work to do. Hale's network was extensive, but it wasn't the only one. There are other threats, other places where someone needs to crawl inside and fix things from within. Crossfire continues. Crossfire always continues, because the threats never stop." A door opens behind them. Captain Lawson enters with another officer, a woman wearing Admiral stars. She's older, mid-60s, with silver hair and eyes that assess everything with tactical precision. "Lieutenant, Chief Cole, thank you for being here." The Admiral extends her hand. "Admiral Sarah Chen, I oversee Joint Special Operations Command, including Crossfire activities. I wanted to personally express appreciation for your actions during Operation Cold Hunt." "Thank you, ma'am." "You did more than help. You saved one of our best operators and ensured critical intelligence reached the right people." She turns to Lieutenant Raines. "Your father would be extraordinarily proud. You finished what he started, brought down a treason network operating for 4 years. Lieutenant Raines straightens, military bearing taking over. "Permission to speak freely, ma'am?" "Granted." "I'd like to request assignment continuation. Keep hunting the network." Hale gave up names during interrogation, but there are still gaps. People he protected, assets he moved. I want to keep pulling threads until there's nothing left. Admiral Chen studies her carefully. "You've been operating under deep cover for 2 years, running constantly, watching your unit die, almost dying yourself. Most operators would take the win and step back." "Most operators didn't lose their father to this network, ma'am." The Admiral nods slowly. "Very well. Assignment continued. But you'll work with a partner this time. No more solo operations. We almost lost you once. I won't risk it again." She looks at Ethan, calculation visible. "Chief Cole, your file indicates exemplary service record, multiple successful operations, leadership capacity, and recent experience working with Crossfire protocols. Would you be interested in a transfer?" The question hangs in the air. Ethan looks at Lieutenant Raines, seeing surprise in her eyes. She didn't expect this offer. But there's something else too. Hope. The prospect of not hunting alone anymore. He thinks about the last 3 weeks, the investigation, the classified briefings about programs he never knew existed, about Lieutenant Rains carrying 2 years of isolation and loss, about threats that move in shadows, requiring people willing to step into darkness and fight from within. Yes, ma'am, I'm interested. Admiral Chen's expression shifts, approval flickering there. Excellent. Paperwork will be processed within the week. Welcome to Crossfire, Chief Cole. She exits, leaving Ethan and Lieutenant Rains alone. Rex sits between them, looking from one to the other as if understanding something important just happened. You didn't have to do that, Lieutenant Rains says quietly. Crossfire work is hard, lonely. You spend months embedded in places where everyone thinks you're someone else. Sounds like someone should have backup. She meets his eyes, and for the first time since he pulled her from the snow, she genuinely smiles. Backup sounds good. They stand together at the window, watching the river flow past. Somewhere out there, threats are forming, networks are building. People with power and access are making choices that compromise security and cost lives. But somewhere out there, people are also watching. Hunting. Working from inside the shadows to drag corruption into daylight. Crossfire continues. The final image is surveillance footage from an external camera, watching Ethan and Lieutenant Rains leave the Pentagon together, Rex walking between them. The timestamp reads 1400 hours. The date is 3 weeks after Operation Cold Hunt concluded, but there's another timestamp on the footage. A second viewer watching this archived recording, the date shows 6 months in the future, and the access credentials for the viewer read simply, Tower 4. The screen goes dark. A single line of text appears. Phase 2 begins. Then nothing. Just silence and the implications that sometimes, solving one conspiracy only reveals larger ones underneath. That justice for Admiral James Rains opened doors into deeper darkness. That Lieutenant Dana Rains and Chief Petty Officer Ethan Cole have stopped running and started hunting. And that somewhere in the shadows, someone called Tower 4 is very interested in what they're going to find next. The investigation continues. The mission evolves. And the operators who died on paper keep working in the margins, fixing what's broken from the inside. Because strength isn't loud, it's patient. Justice doesn't announce itself. It just shows up when the system thinks nobody's watching, carrying fire, refusing to quit until the work is done. They tried to bury her in the snow. She came back carrying evidence that burned their entire network to ash. And now she's hunting whatever comes next.
Every soldier carries a story that few ever hear. Listen with your heart. Thank you for staying and watching. Subscribe to MVB Story for more.